It's time for Lefties Losing It. You know, nature is healing. Things are getting better day by day, even as the demented Democrats call for Donald Trump to be impeached for a targeted strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. Still, the number of sane, rational folk is increasing. You know, things are looking up when a confirmed TDS sufferer like Charlemagne is belatedly seeing the light. Now, this is going to outrage his lefty audience. There'll be meltdowns galore because he's spitting facts.
There have been a bunch of presidents who have ordered strikes without congressional approval. Barack Obama did it against Libya. Joe Biden ordered strikes in Iraq and Syria without congressional approval. Bill Clinton did it to, was it Kosovo? I think you pronounce it. So presidents ordering military action without congressional approval has become pretty routine.
And he's not alone. Here's another Democrat, another lefty losing it. He used to rail against Trump. Well, he's now defending him. Stephen A. Smith is angry, not at the president, but at the Democrats and their calls for impeachment.
The Democrats are calling, or at least some of them, are calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump. Same old song and dance. Thought we heard this before. I thought that was over and done with. The minute you lost the election with the popular vote in the Electoral College vote and losing every sweep state. I thought we were over that. Question number one. No matter what you feel about the President of the United States, do you think that's the time, while we're in the middle of such strife, to be calling for the impeachment of the President of the United States? Particularly if you're a representative, you're an elected official in the United States of America? I don't think so. That's number one. Number two, were the Democrats saying that when Obama bombed Libya, when he was in office?
It's a new day, folks. I'll be playing you some crazy lefties soon. But right now, we are just reveling in lefties who are finally seeing the light.
This is eradicating a threat. Civilians weren't targeted. Nuclear sites were targeted. You can navigate your way around the War Powers Act itself, and you don't have to concern yourself with receiving congressional approval. The Democrats know that because of Obama. So if you knew that because of Obama and you didn't say it when it involved him in Libya, why would you turn around and all of a sudden try to make that case against Donald Trump?
Really, he's done my work for me, precisely the arguments I was going to make, and now I have to listen to a lifelong Democrat make it. I may lose it myself. Now, Trump has even got Democrat Senator John Fetterman, once a far-left radical, criticising AOC and her calls for Trump to be impeached.
She knows it. I know it. We all know it. That's not going anywhere. And, you know, he's been impeached twice, and now he's still our president as well now, too. So it's not going anywhere, and I don't think that's helpful. And I think if you throw that term around, that actually diminishes what the severity of what impeachment is really reserved for.
And here's more lefties getting an education. Old school lefty Bill Maher and his audience got a strong dose of logic from Republican Wesley Hunt about the importance of not tearing down Confederate statues and the importance of restoring the names of military bases. Listen to this.
Trump is putting the Robert E. Lee name back on buildings. I mean, are you down with that?
So when I was at West Point, I actually lived in Robert E. Lee barracks when I was there. And as I said,
Robert E. Lee went to West Point.
Yes, he did. That's why the barracks named after him. And so my brother, sister, and I are matriculated through West Point. We all graduated. And I'll never forget walking under the threshold of Robert E. Lee barracks and think to myself, damn, this is one hell of a country. Because only in America can someone like me walk into a building named after a Confederate general and then be a successful West Point graduate.
Yes.
And I do not want to take down these statues and change the names of these buildings because they're a reminder of what was. And if we don't remember it, we are doomed to repeat it.
Okay. Oh. So there's a reason for it, I see.
As if it's not bad enough that I have the likes of Charlemagne and Stephen A. Smith making my arguments for me, now here is Bill Maher poking fun at the dangerously dim-witted and delusional ladies of The View.
Whoopi Goldberg saying it's worse to be a black person in America today than a woman in Iran. You know, I see we were talking about the trans issue before, and the New York Times really has come over on that to the sort of the sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position. I think this is a great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity, and a second good step would be we got to do something about The View. really believe that. I mean, could you just
It's huge in Iran, though.
Stay in your lane, Bill Maher. Mocking lefties is my territory. You go back to, I don't know, smoking dope and poking fun at Christians. But I do want to play you this brilliant response to Whoopi's insane victim playing from Wesley Hunt. And note again the audience clapping. This is Bill Maher's audience. This wouldn't have happened a few years ago.
My district in the great state of Texas is actually a white majority district that President Trump would have won by 25 points. As I said, I'm a direct descendant of a slave. My great-great-grandfather was born on a Rosedale plantation. I am literally being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. That's the progress because, like, a lot of white people had to vote for me. A lot.
So wait,
I don't even ever want to hear Whoopi Goldberg's conversation about how it's worse to be black in America right now. That's a bit far. And my father, who's 75 years old, he was a man that was in the French quarters that had to go get a sandwich to the back door of the building. And his son is now a United States congressman in a white majority district in Texas as a Republican. That is America. That's America.
And while we're talking about The View, let's check in on the lunacy. Here is Joy Behar.
So on Thursday, the White House said that Trump was going to make a decision on Iran within the next 2 weeks. That's what he said. Remember that? Okay. He was going to give diplomatic negotiations more time to play out. And then, less than 48 hours later, this attack was underway. So what changed? And what was he actually trying to accomplish here?
I mean, look, the 2 weeks measure was clearly a bit of a head fake.
So why did he keep it a secret? For the surprise, the surprise version?
I mean, absolutely the diversion, and you saw the way that all indications were the B-2s were flying towards Guam. Everybody thought, okay, so we're getting in position to be ready. They wanted to have some element of surprise.
Did she really ask why the US didn't tell the Iranians about the surprise attack? Lost for words. Here is Sunny Hostin on The View, pretending to be an international law expert, and she gets shut down quick smart.
He bypassed Congress, potentially violated the War Powers Resolution. I believe this is certainly a clear violation of international law, at the very least. Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries accused the president of misleading the country as to his intentions. What do you think are the possible ramifications that President Trump could face for arguably overstepping his authority?
Well, look, constitutionally, only Congress has the power to declare war. The War Powers Act would make it seem very clear you need to have congressional approval on this. But president after president after president has launched military action without the approval of Congress.
Yeah.
Now, here is further proof that blue cities are mad and willing to elect ever more radical miscreants. New York's mayoral race is underway, and Zoran Mamdani, a socialist, the New York Post reports, has barely ever held a job and admits to being a Nepo baby. Well, he could be the next mayor. He could be the man to lead a city of 8.8 million people. This guy.
Down for you. Make a sound for you. Go ahead, make a rap for you, Nani. It's a rap. Get the glass and the rack on your Nani. In the rack. Come through, give a dab to your Nani. If you're really feeling good, spin a track for your Nani.
And more recently has been involved in violent protests against Tom Homan and the Trump administration's deportation program. Joining me now is comedian and host of Prime Time with Alex Stein on Blaze TV. Alex, what is going on in New York? Will we have this 33-year-old become mayor?
You know, I hate to say it, Rita, but I think he is, possibly going to win. And I think New York kind of, they get what they deserve. And if they want to try radical socialism, go ahead and find out. I know California had some terrible fires because they didn't have, water to put out these fires. Lord have mercy if there's a terrible fire in New York City and they don't have water to put it out. So if they want to go this direction, that's why we live in a democracy. And if these people want to choose to go that route, buyer beware is all I can say when it comes to the citizens of New York City.
Well, I think we're going to see a new influx of New Yorkers moving to your state, Texas or Florida and Tennessee. We have seen that internally in the US for some time now. Californians and New Yorkers fleeing these blue states, going to red states like Texas and Florida, but sometimes they keep voting the same way, so it can be a bit of a danger. Now, Joe Biden or whoever was pulling his strings put this woman, Ketanji Brown Jackson, on the Supreme Court. Remember this?
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
Yes, on the Supreme Court, but can't tell you what a woman is. But since becoming SCOTUS, we've seen that justice wowing us with theatrics, literally.
Like I hate it. Which makes me think it must be brilliant. Got this feeling in my body.
And ABC News reports that Justice Brown Jackson has unloaded on her Supreme Court colleagues in a series of sharp dissents, castigating them for what she called a pure textualism approach to interpreting the law. Yes, we can't really rely on the text, Alex. We've got to just go with the feelings and vibes, I guess.
You know, she is the DEI vibe Supreme Court justice, so I'm surprised that she doesn't want to have to look at words and go by, the laws that are written in a book. So I'm honestly not surprised because she can't define a simple question like, what is a woman? She can't say that there's many biological differences, when it comes to chromosomes or body parts. I mean, there's just so many differences between a man and a woman, and she wants to try to placate as if they're the same. So this is who's in power, and there's always going to be one of these DEI people that are there. And I think it's almost good in a way, so we can kind of weed out who is making the wrong decision in the Supreme Court. Sadly, I think they're going to have a job for life. Supreme Court justices don't go anywhere, so it stinks that she's going to have a job forever. But at least we know that she's kind of, the dumb one. So however she votes, we know the opposite of it is probably the way that we should be voting.
I would argue there's another one on that in that court that's even dumber, but we'll argue about that another day. But yeah, she's got some competition there, I can tell you. Sean Diddy Combs, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, he's not going to testify at his trial. The New York Post is reporting not only is Diddy not testifying, but his legal team isn't planning on calling a single witness in his defence. Alex, I'm not a lawyer, but this seems rather a risky approach.
Well, I'm not an attorney either, but I do think that they say that if you are, a criminal, it's better to not go on the stand so that you don't perjure yourself, or I guess that he doesn't, get caught up in some sort of web of lies by the prosecution. So maybe it is smart for him to not go on the stand, but let's be real, and I know this is an unpopular position to take. When it comes to this case and everything that I've heard so far, Puff Daddy might be the most repugnant human being in the world. But according to this case, everything seems to have been consensual. And it seems like there was a lot of money and baby oil and disgusting actions. But I think some people in this case need to take some sort of self-responsibility. So if Puff Daddy gets off from this court case, it's going to be like the O.J. Simpson trial. I mean, he's going to be a hero, Rita, for all the wrong reasons. So I kind of hope that doesn't happen. But I also hope that, justice is served and that he doesn't go to jail unnecessarily if he didn't really commit the crime that they're accusing him of.
Well, we don't know what the jurors think of some of the footage they've seen because no one else has seen it. Federal prosecutors on Monday showed the jurors around 20 minutes of footage from these so-called freak-offs, and the videos were only viewed by the jury due to the very graphic nature. So I don't know. I mean, again, just because it's repugnant doesn't mean it's illegal. So, yeah, it will be fascinating to see the outcome of this case. Before you go, Alex, I know you're very sad because Pride Month is almost over. You've been very active throughout June. How close have you come to being arrested or perhaps being assaulted with some of your antics?
Well, Rita, June is a good month when it comes to clicks, but in reality, I'm ready for it to be over because, listen, I love my gay brothers and sisters, but do we need a whole month to just celebrate somebody's sexuality? I mean, come on, a week is long enough. So I'll be happy when this holiday is over. And unfortunately, I will say this, getting all these clicks and confronting drag queen story times, sadly, this stuff goes on even when it's not June. So just because June's ending doesn't mean that all of this weird indoctrination is going to stop.
Alex Stein, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rita.